is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali. I am attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Andrea Rodeman. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our communities. First of all, I want to give a very special Happy Mother's Day greeting to all of the mothers out there, my mother, your mother, my wife, your wife, the crew, and their mothers. So, Happy Mother's Day. So, I'm actually winging this show. I really didn't have anything planned as far as how I wanted to address it. But I do believe that taking this opportunity to recognize all the mothers and then the significance of motherhood, right? And I was thinking about how do you break the whole thing down with the issue of motherhood. And what I mean by that is, like, when you say that, it basically automatically tells a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you really adequately articulate the significance of a mother, or the importance, of a mother, right? One of the things that did come to my mind when I was thinking about the topic today was, George Floyd, and thinking about, his, when he was losing, his last breath, when he knew that, he was never gonna see. He knew he was dying, and when he knew he was dying, then he called out, for his mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that kind of exemplifies, in a tragic way, but in a realistic way, the significance of mothers, right? Because I mean, last week, we talked about school and education, and how those are your formative years, and how important education really is. But your mother is your first teacher,
Correct.
and she's your protector. She guides you. She I mean, that's everything to an individual is their mother. So I mean, every day should be Mother's Day, and in fact, I mean, it should be a national holiday, right? I mean, although I guess it is, but obviously it's not, from the perspective that but it means so much, that I mean, you just can't really articulate it. And when I think about, and I want you guys to kind of give me an idea. Number one, what Mother's Day means to you, and some of the, at least 3 or 4 principles of what you feel that your mother brought to you or brought to your life. But I guess for me, I mean, one of the things that I start thinking about, because as you age and as you get older, you begin to start thinking more about the significance of what people in general, but especially your mother, played the role that they played in your life. And how did you get there? So for me, I mean, I always tell the story that I was basically raised in a single parent household, and thinking back about who I am today, and how did you develop some of the things that you have. My mother worked in a factory, and it was called American National Can, where she just, it was, factory work is very hard work. And she worked as a, part time at a restaurant. Early Sonic days. So she worked at Sonic and she worked at American Can, and she was a very hard worker. And I think that was one of the things that my work ethic definitely came from my mother. I saw her go to get her education. She was a very motivated person. I never wanted for anything growing up. She, as a single mother, purchased her own home. Um, worked very hard, and it definitely had an impact on me because I know that I, um, I remember I was telling someone today on my way over to the show that when I was 13 years old, I was hauling hay in hayfields as a 13-year-old. And I remember having my first job, like a job where I was getting a check, when I was 14 years old till I was 18, until I left to go to the military. I actually had a job.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, um, what was interesting, when I played football, at that time we had 2-a-day football practices. It was hot. And I remember one day when I came home, I was taking a bath. People took more baths than they did showers, I guess, back then. But anyway, I was taking a bath, and I remember I was complaining to myself. And I remember her getting on to me about complaining. I was complaining about it was hot, 2-a-days, I was tired, whatever. And, uh, she got on to me about complaining, right? And so, as I look back and think about, my life today and thinking about how I was able to do, whatever I did, I mean, I know that it comes from those principles. And many of those principles, we oftentimes talk about the importance of fathers, and fathers are important. And that's a different story. But, you know, um, I knew many people who had fathers that did not have the work that ethics or the manhood that I had growing up with a mother, right? I mean, because you figure you're talking about a 13, 14-year-old kid who was interested in working. I know young men that are 13, 14, 15 years old, you'd have to almost burn them to get them to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and those are things that I learned from, valuable lessons that I learned from, my mother, and it means so much even today when, um, I don't know. And also the thing about when I was growing up, um, playing football and playing, basketball, which I played, most of my life growing up. I remember when I went and played baseball. And honestly, I didn't like baseball. And I remember I wanted to quit playing baseball. And she would not let me quit. She said, if you start something, you have to finish it. Whatever you start, growing up, I understood if you started something, you finish what you start. You know what I mean? Um, and so, those are principles that, again, that I got from, from my mother. Principles that I know, again, as I said, I knew people who have fathers that, you know, don't understand those ethics and don't understand those principles. And I learned them at an early age. I remember when I I was given as a kid I was given a Marine Corps handbook. I was given to it by a gentleman by the name of Ron Bailey. That's a different story, but the irony is that he became uh, a three-star general in the U.S. Marine Corps. He was my uncle's roommate in college. and he was in a training program, and he gave me a Marine Corps handbook. And I remember when I said I was I wanted to go to the Marine Corps. I would make my bed like like it had in the manual, and my mother would come in and inspect it. She would take a quarter and bounce it off the bed to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would iron my clothes, like I would have like the way that it looked in the Marine Corps handbook, like you'd have pants here, like
Yeah.
all starched,
Mhm.
shirts all starched, underwear, shirts all folded a certain way. That's how my room uh, closet looked.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I clean my own room. You have kids today, you have grown kids who have their parents cleaning their room.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I
All
mean?
right.
I mean, it's you know, but again, I mean, all those principles that you learn growing up, I mean, and those are the things that I got, you know, from my mother. Spit shine in my shoes. I would spit literally, I'm talking about 13, 12 years old, penny loafers, I'm spit shining those things,
Yeah.
right? As a kid. I mean, because, you know, I mean that I was obsessed with hard work and discipline and wanting to be a man. And I was obsessed by being raised by a woman.
Mhm.
So you know, and that's special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But at any rate, please do not touch that dial. We'll resume with our Mother's Day special on Justice Watch on the other side of the break.
Great idea for a radio show, but have no idea where to start? Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest, from technical engineering to full-service audio production and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and the Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion or our special Mother's Day edition of Justice Watch. And just to go back, I think before we went to the break, I was kind of, reminiscing and going back and talking about all those things that as you grow and as you look back and you understand, how important, the things that your mother teaches you and the things that they actually do impact, who you become, and for me, again, I go back and I think about, many of the, sometimes there's things that, you develop or you become, and sometimes you don't even really know why.
Yeah.
You're thinking, man, how did I end up, you know, sometimes there's things that you think are um, attributes. I mean, that you think are negative, but they're actually attributes. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so, and for me, I mean, I admit, I mean, to a certain extent, I don't like to use the word, but I think that I am somewhat of a workaholic. Um, but you know, um, but I understand the importance of that, and again, that's something that I learned watching someone, working two jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that um, I heard someone made a comment, you know, and I'm going to say this too, because we were talking about, the generational issue with people who don't have the work ethic that people had back in a different time
Yeah.
period, right?
Mhm.
So I think about, one thing that I believe that I was blessed with, and I think it's primarily something that I learned from is empathy, understanding people, but also understanding, seeing yourself, not taking things for granted.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now there's so much, I'm amazed. I mean, everybody wants to work as little as possible, but get as much out of it as they can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Entitlement.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. We live in such a privileged, society.
Yeah.
Um, and so much of what the thing that you learn from mothers, and all mothers, but even
Mhm.
especially single mothers
Yeah.
who are able to you know understand that whole idea of sacrifice.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is that we live now in a society where everybody is saying uh, work less, enjoy more.
Mhm.
All you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I will never worry about is if my internet goes off, I can survive.
Mhm.
If I lose my phone, I can survive, right?
Yeah.
If I have to live in the boondocks or if I had to live on the land, I could do that too.
Mhm.
And you never know when you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so and that's part of being prepared,
Mhm.
right? No matter what happens, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Exactly.
And so, and those are some of the principles that, I learned and understood. Whenever
Mhm.
there was an issue, the response to it is, okay, we got something extra that we got to pay for.
Mhm.
So instead of saying I'm going to go over here and borrow the money, then I just go get another job, or I work overtime, or I do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
now it's
Yeah.
like it's give me, give me, give me.
Yeah.
I need a raise. I'm not making enough money. It's like, well, you're overspending, so that means you have to work more. Those are
Correct.
those are just great principles that that you begin to start understanding. Sometimes there are things that are taught to you, but there's based upon things that you observe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
And the fact that I'm a very resilient person, that I get that from my mother. You know what I mean? The resilience that you see, especially in single mothers who make it, that resiliency means something. Not to a man, the struggle doesn't go unnoticed, and the struggle isn't done in vain. You know what I mean? And so you can learn something from that by watching someone go through that. If everything, I mean, the reason that you're able to deal with obstacles and things you generally is somebody telling you about an obstacle, but when you watch how somebody maneuvered through an obstacle, then it makes a difference. And when you see some of these single mothers who, I've seen mothers who are nurses. They're going to nursing school. They've got 2 or 3 kids.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they're maneuvering these things around.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think children see that. A child sees what the struggle that in a mother's mind, in a moment of the struggle, it seems like there's nothing but the struggle, but obviously there's benefits of watching that and knowing that whenever someone is you're watching this person going through that, it brings something out in a man. You know what I mean? I cannot, I remember watching Deion Sanders' Hall of Fame speech, where he said that the day that he was able to go, he would watch his mother work. And when he made it, he was able to go to that location and say, "Mom, I'm taking you out of this situation."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or when you think about Shannon Sharp, when he talks about his grandmother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And him and her, watching what she went through, that, that was his everything. And it motivated him. It made him, the man, that he is. Because in essence, that's it's not what, you learn that it's not really, who you are and what you make, but it's the human that you become.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and when you look at that humanness in people, it's like, what kind of man is Shannon Sharp? And not what he did on the football field, but you hear how he talks about his grandmother, and you knew that those are the principles that he had, and that's how he became the man that he is. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I think that that's the thing that, I can appreciate, where all those times where you were, in the mind of that person at the time, they're shaping you.
Right.
In the time of struggle and in the good times, you're shaping that child, and how you deal with obstacles, really determines or has an impact on how that child sees that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, for me, I never thought there was ever anything in the world that I couldn't do, because, as a kid, I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I remember questions that I would ask, my mother about, being an adult. What am I going to be? What can I, I want to be this or I want to be that. She always told me, you can be anything that you want to be, just be the best at it. Right. And so, I never was ever somebody that says, I never had to go through this idea of like, I can't do something. But that goes back to that mother. You know what I mean? And so, and all those things, I mean, and that's just what it means, what it means to me. I think that, I was just extremely blessed to be put in the situation, and look back now and think, man, sometimes I want to know why I can't stop working. I mean, why is it that, I'm not satisfied with quitting or satisfied with not reaching my potential? Or why am I annoyed when I see people that don't reach their potential? It really came from that. Yeah. It really did. Sometimes I may not have realized it, but you go back and you search and you think that's where it came from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I'm just so appreciative of that. And I know everybody has their own story about the greatness and the significance of their mother. But on the other side of the break, I'll go to you first. I want you to, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to go to you next, Andrea, okay? All right, then. But at any rate, please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
New nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a Black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep Your Hand on the Plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. We're in our Mother's Day special. Bilal.
Yeah. You know, listening to everything that you were saying, I was kind of sitting over here reflecting. And you know, sometimes when someone talks, you always have that tendency to kind of go through your Rolodex in your head, and it kind of prints out that picture of seeing what you were going through, and see how I can relate that to my mother. And mothers wear all these different hats, man. You know, they can be the nurturer, they can be the strength, you know. And I think you opened up the show real well when you kind of equated it to George Floyd's last words calling for his mother, because he didn't call for God, he called for his mother, because this was his protector. This was his person that can ease that pain, that can take away that pain. I can remember back, you know, falling down and scraping my knee. Who was there to, you know, patch up that knee, or, you know, give you that kiss on the knee and pick you back up and, you know, tell you to push on? That was your mother, you know, and I know that's for me. And I always say my mother is like my delayed superhero. And I say that because for a long time, I didn't understand who my superhero was, you know. And like you say, your parents can do so many things, and you can watch and see it, and then that can be your walk later on in life. Some things you can attribute to your mother and take back to her, but then the great majority of the stuff that I've been through always been attributed to my mother. You know, so this was, and I didn't realize this until later years, that this was my true superhero. Right. You know, and not, I think just within the last couple of months, I have had some serious conversations with my mother. And one of them was, my mother had asked me, she says, well, what are you teaching your children? And I said, everything you taught me. And she says, no, I mean, yeah, but I'm talking about is you sending them to church? Did you send them to the masjid? You send them to, I said, I'm teaching them everything you taught me. She said, well, they need somebody, a leader or something. I said, I am their leader, and you've been my leader for all this time. And so therefore, you didn't lead me wrong. So what makes you think that I should teach them anything different? And she didn't quite understand it, but I mean, I'm telling her that, look, it took me a while to understand all of these things, but I understand now, and those things that you taught me did not lead me down these dark paths. And so therefore, I'm giving them the same thing that you taught me. And then there was another conversation I just had with her just recently. I said, how did you do it? I mean, as we get older, we have kids, we understand the struggles that our parents go through, in terms of, raising kids. My mother had 7 kids, 1 girl and 6 boys. And I mean, I seen her go to work day in and day out. And then once she got home from work, she went out and, I mean, she came home, she cooked and left right back out the door again to sell Avon. And it was like, this was like every single day. And so when I look at my strength, when I look at the love in which and the compassion that I have for people, when I look at the courage, when I look at just that grind, that everyday grind, that hustle, I can see all of these things. And even that aspect of just wanting to survive. When you was talking about, just being able, where we get these survival tactics, you saying that you can survive, almost anywhere without anything. I can remember my mother telling us, preparing us for cases of emergency where she had these mason jars full of peaches and stuff, and, putting them up and said, we saving this for a hard time. Don't nobody know when the time is going to come, but we might need all of this food. She has food stored up. And so when I look at those things, man, every aspect of my life has been based on my superhero, which has been my mother, because all these hats that she wore, and I don't think it's just with my mother, it's with a lot of mothers, And I think we don't tap into that until later on in the years when we have kids and we have a job and we have to do the everyday grind in order to survive. We look back, and a lot of people can't equate it to it, but I can almost guarantee that the great majority of the people that will sit back and look at everything that they've went through in life, whether it's been that nurturing spirit, whether it's been that person, the person in just everyday survival, it can always be attributed back to the mother.
Right.
And so, like I say, that's my great superhero.
Right. Well said, man. Well said. What about you, Andrea?
Oh man, it's crazy because my mother had 2 boys from a previous marriage, and then me. I'm the only girl on both ends. And well, first let me give a shout out to my dad, who was a wonderful, wonderful provider. But my dad is a lot like you, Zulu, a straight workaholic, so he wasn't really there. My mom and dad separated when I was very young, so I still consider my mom to be a single parent, because a lot of times people focus just on the monetary aspect of everything, but that emotional aspect, if you're not getting that, that can cause some serious damage. And I watched my mom raise these 2 boys, when I was a kid. We grew up in South Central. My brothers were 2 of the original Crips, and my dad stepped in and was like, I don't want these boys growing up, and he took us out off the street, took us and we moved to like a little suburb in West Covina. And my dad, he's the workaholic. My mom, once I was born, she actually stopped nursing, and she opened an in-home, not a babysitter, but she opened a licensed in-home child care, because she didn't want anyone caring for her daughter but her. And I watched her not only nurture and care for me, but other people's children up until like the youngest one she had was 3 months old, and she had a lot of them up until they got into junior high school, And I watched my mom sacrifice so much. And it's crazy because growing up, in some ways, even though me and my mom have always been really, really close, in some ways I had a little bit of animosity towards her, and I didn't understand until I got older with my own children. I didn't understand. I felt like, just all you do is care about us and other people's kids, and you're not doing enough for yourself. I felt like she should have done more. I didn't get the deepness of her love and sacrifice until I had my own children and understood why she did not do certain things and how she put us first, you know. And right now, my mom, like I said, my mother's always been a hard worker, and right now she's going through some things. I kind of told you a little bit about it. My mother's not in the best of health right now, and I sit up, and we kind of have a role reversal going on right now. I'm kind of like the mom, the caregiver, and as I'm sitting with her, and I bathe my mom, and I'm washing her hair, and I'm thinking about how much I'm getting emotional. I'm sorry. I think about how much of her life she gave up. How much of my grandmother's life. You know, that my grandma, because this is a generational thing. My grandmother had 9 children whom she raised on her own because my grandfather just went away, didn't return until I was like 18, 19. But by that time, all her kids are adults, you know. And I'm thinking, how could anyone who has a mother be disrespectful to their mom? You know, not show their mom care? Because you think about every woman who's had a child could have died giving birth. You know, could have died giving birth. I think about, you know, even like going back to, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm trying to keep my emotions in check, but thinking about going back to my dad, the reason my dad is such a hard worker and a workaholic, my grandmother passed away when he was about somewhere between 9 and 11. My dad is in his late 70s, and to this day, he talks about how he never got to buy my grandmother that house. He talks about the pain of losing his mom to this day, you know. And, you know, I just think about how much this woman, his mother, instilled into him at a very, very young age. You know, how much my grandmother instilled into my mom, how much my grandmother still instilled into me, my aunt, you know. And I'm just so thankful that I have these strong women to look up to, because being a single mother is not easy, and it is hard wearing multiple different hats. That mess can get very confusing, because it's like, as women, we're nurturers. But then if you don't have the male figure, and especially if you have a boy, you got to be hard. You know, and that can get confusing. That's why sometimes, I look at different ones who, my cousin and I, my male cousin, we had a conversation about this the other day, and he was kind of blaming some of the issues that some of these, you know, young black men are going through on black mothers. And I said, well, you know what, if it wasn't for these black mothers stepping up when some of these black fathers disappear, then, you know, then what? Right. You know, you can't put all that stuff on black women, black mothers and stuff like that. And it's just, you know, this topic, we can go so many different places on the importance of mothers. And I say black mothers because I am a black mother raised by a black mother who was raised by a black mother, you know. This topic can be so deep, but I think that I'm so thankful to still have my mom, even though she's not in the best of health. You know, I'm so thankful that she is still here for me to care for her, because I wouldn't want anybody else caring for my mom but me. And I love my mother to the thought of her not being here to get on my nerves and smother me and my kids. You know, the thought of her not being here for me to say, oh my God, Mom, get off me. You know, it kills me.
Wow. Please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other side of the break with Justice Watch.
Syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew and our Happy Mother's Day, or Mother's Day special. Happy Mother's Day special. I guess I should say that, right? Yeah. So, wow, I mean, you know, did you want to, that was both of you, I mean, it was really, you know, you touched on a lot of things that I think that are really important. And one of the things that you talked about, there was so much stuff about, how you depend on your mother as a young person, to pick you up when something, I mean, they're your protector, you know what I mean? And so, and then when you were talking, Andrea, when you talked about the issue of how, as far as, because, a lot of stuff that you went into when it comes to how we don't sometimes appreciate mothers, how it's easy to get yourself into a situation where, because, everyone says, women, they're, it's a Tyler Perry show. The mother's overbearing, don't want them to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
But, I mean, it's kind of, mothers, what they do always comes from a good place. I think that in many cases, that's the reality of it. And it's amazing. Sometimes it takes an entire lifetime before we really understand the importance. Sometimes, we don't understand it until it's too late.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so we have a very limited time in, in this world. And you also hit something when you talked about, raising, a woman raising boys to be men, which is a very important issue in our community, because we have a lot of women, single women, that are raising men, are raising.
And that's hard. That's hard because we can only we're not men. You know,
Mhm.
we're not men. We can tell you what we feel a man should be and what we needed and what we think, but we can't lead by example,
Mhm.
and that can be very difficult. And I think that that is one of the hardest things to be especially a raising black boys,
Mhm.
black men. Um, that is one of the scariest, most demanding, rewarding, you
Mhm.
know, in a lot of cases, but it's hard. It's
Right.
hard, especially when you don't have outside, maybe an uncle or grandfather and stuff like that who can help you with that. And a lot of us don't have that. I'm thankful that I do, but a lot of women don't have that, and it is very hard. We cannot lead by example. We do the best we can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes, I mean, and there's a lot of women out there, they're trying very hard, but I do believe that sometimes uh, there is some value in it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think sometimes it's the value that sometimes we because women, as mothers, want to make sure they're giving their child everything that they need,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and whether it's material things as well as lessons and everything else.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of value um, to be taken, um, from in the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, of trying to. Um, it's not necessarily sometimes what you tell them, and you talked about the issue of showing, but even what mom does have an impact. I think
Yes.
Yeah.
more than what sometimes they they know.
Mm-hmm.
They can. A woman. I'm a true believer that a woman can raise a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe wholeheartedly because you have young men who have fathers. We see some of them just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what
Hmm.
I mean? They're just,
Mm-hmm.
that can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You see, um, young men who have that they get babied more from their father than they do their mother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
I mean,
That's
like,
true.
dudes, there's guys 30, 35, 40 years, 35 years old who their fathers are getting their mothers to clean their rooms. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
know, and the father acts like the mama is the boy's servant. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Um, so it's a lot more to it. I mean, unless a man, just because a man is a man doesn't mean he can raise a man.
That's true.
Correct.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's
Correct.
a reason. There's a reason why daddy's not in the picture. You know what I mean? And so I would rather be raised by a good woman than a bad man.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so and there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just because if you're teaching you know a young man poison, and
Mm-hmm.
we have men out there that are teaching their men to
Mm-hmm.
be bad men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
That can be, that's a misnomer. We know and so that's poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, having a woman, that's going to raise you right is just as, that's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, if went back in my life, there is nothing I would change. I would not change absolutely zero. I would
Wow.
not, being raised by my mother primarily in a single parent household, I would not change that for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not nothing. There's nothing that I would do different. There's no, it's exactly the way that it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. But the problem sometimes in our community is not the men in our homes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the men we have in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every man is a role model. You
That's
can have
true.
you see young men that have fathers in the home,
Yeah.
but then they are surrounded by knuckleheads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's further than just just the men in the home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just men in general. But then there's other individuals, men that are available. I mean, that are in your. For example, for me, I had a grandfather. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was critical to my upbringing. I had uncles that were critical to my upbringing. So as long women can steer their child in the right direction when it comes to male role models.
Correct.
Just make sure it's just not anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it definitely can be.
And I believe that I definitely can be done as long as that mother is showing them exactly what it is on that male side that they need to look out for, and that they need to be aware of. There, of course, there's things that she cannot teach them, but by showing them exactly what to look for and what to be aware for, that's what makes them become young men. Not so much that she gives it to them, but she tells them what to look for, And I think that, even with my youth program, I can't tell you how many parents I've had come to me that's saying, look, I need them to be put in the mentor program because their dad is not at home, and I need them to have a positive male role model, And I think with those parents that do seek out that positive role model for them, that it is possible. And there's also the children that grows up that says, look, my dad wasn't there, I'm gonna be a bigger man than him. So I'm gonna take this higher road.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was I'm always enjoy talking about mothers, man. So I enjoy that. But again, I want to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Andrea.
Thank you.
And everyone else, to my mom, happy Mother's Day. To my wife, happy Mother's Day. To Bilal's wife, happy Mother's Day. Your mom, everybody. But at any rate, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel. And until that,
there's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
The following program